They grew up like brothers, shared food, shared dreams, shared secrets. One of them built everything, the other took everything. And when the truth finally surfaced, what hurt the most was not the betrayal. It was realizing it had been happening all along. Ethan Miller and Ryan Cole met at the age of 9. Same broken sidewalk, same crumbling apartments, same empty father's chairs at dinner. Ethan was quiet, thoughtful, observant. Ryan was bold, loud, fearless. Where one hesitated, the other charged. They became inseparable within months. School together, jobs together, dreams together. People in the neighborhood didn't call them friends, they called them brothers. At 16, after a long shift washing dishes at a diner, Brian looked at Ethan and said, "One day we're getting out of here, together." Ethan nodded. No one gets left behind. They sealed that promise with a handshake that meant everything to both of them. They would later learn how easily promises break. Ethan studied at night, business books, marketing articles, online courses. Ryan hated classrooms. He believed success came from confidence, not preparation. People buy people, Ryan used to say. You worry too much about learning. Ethan didn't argue, he just kept studying. At 24, Ethan created a small online service, just a simple local marketing solution for small businesses. He worked from a cheap laptop in a shared apartment. Ryan became his first and only employee. Sales, outreach, customer meetings. Ryan was perfect for that role. The company slowly grew. Clients turned into contracts, contracts turned into revenue. Ethan trusted Ryan completely. Bank access, client databases, financial decisions, everything. By 30, the business exploded. Office downtown, 12 employees, six-figure monthly revenue. Their childhood dream had come true. Ethan handled operations, Ryan led sales. They split profits evenly. They bought homes near each other, their families vacationed together to the outside world. They were an unbreakable partnership. Ryan's lifestyle changed fast: luxury watches, expensive suits, private club memberships. Ethan noticed. He asked casually, "Business really that good?" Ryan laughed. "Bro, relax. This is just commission magic." Ethan trusted him because he always had. One afternoon, a massive client contacted the company directly. National brand, long-term contract, life-changing revenue. Ethan tried calling Ryan. No answer. The next day, the client vanished. A week later, that same client appeared under a new company, Ryan's company, registered quietly, privately, in secret. Ethan confronted Ryan. Ryan smiled calmly. It was just a side deal. You won't have wanted the hassle. Ethan felt a pinch of doubt, but he let it go. He wanted to believe because betrayal from a stranger hurts, but betrayal from your brother destroys your stability. Over the next year, money disappeared, invoices didn't match, clients quietly moved. Ethan blamed the economy, the market, competition. Not once did he blame Ryan, because trust had blinded him completely. One late evening, cleaning through digital files, Ethan opened a folder he had never seen before, hidden, encrypted, misnamed. Inside were shell company records, bank transfers, client diversions, royalty siphons. All paths led to one person, Ryan. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He didn't cry. He didn't shout. He simply stared at the ceiling, replaying childhood, replaying sacrifices, replaying handshake promises. By sunrise, he had lost more than money. He had lost his foundation. Ethan called Ryan into the office, calm, quiet, cold. He placed the papers on the table. Ryan didn't deny it. He leaned back and said softly, "You were the brain. I was the face. I deserved more." Ethan whispered, "You stole from me." Ryan replied, "I claimed what you were too scared to take." Within weeks, clients vanished, credit lines froze, employees quit, lawsuits followed, media whispers spread. Ethan's company collapsed publicly. Ryan disappeared internationally with millions. The boy from the broken sidewalk had been robbed by the boy he trusted most. Ethan sold his house, his car, his reputation. He moved into a one room apartment. Debt swallowed his savings. Family turned distant. Investors turned hostile. Trust no longer existed in his vocabulary. There were nights when Ethan sat alone with the lights off, imagining how easy it would be to disappear. But every time, a childhood memory of that handshake stopped him. No one gets left behind, even if that promise had only been honored by one side. When everything collapses at once, the world doesn't make a sound, it just shifts, one detail at a time. Ethan Miller learned this during the months that followed Ryan's disappearance, after the betrayal, after the lawsuits, after the company fell apart like wet paper. He thought the worst was behind him, but betrayal doesn't end when the betrayer leaves. It continues echoing through every forgotten corner of your life. And soon, Ethan would learn that what Ryan stole wasn't money, a company, or even friendship. He had stole years. The office that once buzzed with strategy sessions, whiteboards, client calls, and hopeful employees stood empty. Dust coated desks, cables hung from tables like broken veins. The cleaning company stopped coming once Ethan couldn't pay. Every room felt like a crime scene, except the body was a decade of dreams. Ethan wandered through it one last time. His footsteps echoed. He passed the glass conference room where he and Ryan once celebrated their first major contract, the contract Ryan secretly moved to his hidden company. He passed the break room where Ryan jokingly told everyone, "Ethan is the engine, I am the fuel." He passed the wall full of photos from company trips. Ryan always stood in front. Ethan always stood slightly behind. Ethan burned those photos later, not out of hate, but because memories had become the sharpest knives. Bankruptcy wasn't the worst part. Debt wasn't the worst part. Losing friends wasn't the worst part. It was the phone calls no one prepared him for. "Mr. Miller, a loan repayment is overdue." "Mr. Miller, your credit line was used to purchase international assets." "Mr. Miller, you owe taxes on revenue that never entered your company." Every statement ended the same way, signed by Ryan Cole. But all the paperwork carried both signatures. Ethan's forged signature. Clean, perfect, identical. Ryan had been practicing for years. Ethan felt sick imagining it. Ryan signing his name casually, confidently, without hesitation. A signature was supposed to be a bond. Ryan used it like a weapon. By the third month, Ethan wasn't counting losses anymore. He simply stopped answering unknown numbers. The police took a report, FBI took an interest, Interpol added his name to a list. But Ryan Cole wasn't a ghost. He was worse. He was a man who had studied Ethan for 2 decades, a man who knew how Ethan thought, how he moved, what he trusted, what he feared. Finding him wasn't difficult, catching him was impossible. Because when Ethan's company collapsed, when every employee began posting angry videos online, when the media spun it as CEO fraud and inside job, Ryan vanished like smoke. But he didn't hide. He relocated. New country, new identity, new business, new friends. Ethan knew where he was: Dubai, the city of appearances, where money erases every question. A place perfectly suited for a man like Ryan. Ethan told the FBI. They wrote it down. Nothing happened. 4 months after the collapse, Ethan's phone buzzed late at night. Unknown number. He almost deleted it unread, but the preview froze his heart. "Ethan, he did the same to us." He opened it instantly. The message continued. I've worked with him in Dubai. You need to hear what he's doing now. Attached was a voice note. When he played it, a man's panicked voice filled the room. He's running an investment scam, a big one. We're talking millions. The same tactics he used with you, but worse. Fake companies, borrowed identities, forged signatures. Ethan, he learned everything from you. He copies your business style, your pitches, even your tone of voice. He's not just stealing money, he's stealing your life. Ethan replayed the message 3 times. His life? Ryan wasn't running from the past, he was rebuilding it without Ethan. This stranger sent Ethan a video, shaky, low resolution. A private rooftop lounge, golden lights, elite investors mingling, and in the center, Ryan, confident, laughing, champagne in hand, expensively dressed, performing exactly as he used to in their company meetings, except he wasn't alone. On the wall behind him were large digital screens displaying business presentations. The logo made Ethan's breath stop. A modified version of his company's original logo. Slightly changed, but unmistakable. Ryan wasn't just running schemes, he was rewriting history with himself as the founder, as the genius, as the rightful owner. Ethan felt a numbness spread through him, the kind that sits in your bones for days. This wasn't greed, it was an impulsive betrayal, it was horror level identity theft. It was a slow, deliberate erasure of Ethan's existence. The stranger from Dubai, whose name was Kareem, insisted on a call. When Ethan picked up, a trembling voice greeted him. Ethan, I'm risking my life calling you. What is he doing now? Ethan asked. Kareem exhaled shakily, expanding, planning a multi-million-dollar exit scam. Ethan's chest tightened. How many investors? Hundreds. And you're telling me because? Kareem hesitated. Because he threatened me when I tried leaving the team, and because the only person who knows his patterns, his methods, is you. Ethan closed his eyes. I don't know if I can help. Kareem whispered, you're the only one who can. 2 weeks later, Ethan received an email. No subject, no signature, just one sentence. He's laundering money through a charity. Attached was a PDF, a neatly structured financial report. Ethan froze. He recognized the layout, the formatting, the structure. It was his template. Ryan had copied even that. Every page felt like an accusation, not against Ryan, against Ethan's silence, against his trust, against the years he ignored the red flags. When he closed the document, he realized something. He wasn't just reading numbers, he was reading a death sentence for innocent investors. One rainy afternoon, someone knocked on Ethan's door. Not loud, not aggressive, just persistent. Ethan opened it slowly. A woman stood there, late 40s, expensive coat soaked from the rain, eyes red from crying. Are you Ethan Miller? She asked softly. Yes. She held out a folder. My husband invested with Ryan. He lost everything 3 days ago. I was told you're the only one who can explain what's happening. Ethan felt a punch in his chest. He motioned her inside. For the next hour, she explained how Ryan sold them a dream, and the same dream he once sold Ethan. Same tone, same pitch, same confidence, same promises. Ethan asked how she found him. She pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, Ryan's old notebook containing old contact details. Ethan stared at it. It was the same notebook they used together for brainstorming as teenagers. Ryan had kept it all these years, not out of sentiment, but because Ethan's handwriting made the schemes look more legitimate. The betrayal wasn't personal, it was strategic. 2 weeks later, Ethan received a call from an international compliance officer. We've traced funds from the Dubai scam. There's an anomaly, something that doesn't fit. What anomaly? We found a payment sent to an unregistered charity, but it wasn't sent correctly. The beneficiary ID number is 1 digit wrong. What does that mean? It means someone on Ryan's side made a mistake. Ryan didn't make mistakes, but someone in his circle did. A tiny crack, a single misstep. enough to open a door. The officer continued, "If we can trace that payment back, we can freeze his entire network." Ethan whispered, "Tell me what you need." There was a long pause. Then, "We need someone who knows how he operates, someone who knows his patterns, his shortcuts, his defaults, his thinking, someone who grew up with him, someone he learned from, someone he betrayed, someone named Ethan Miller." Ryan had always believed in one thing about life: if you control the narrative, you control the world. For 11 years, that belief made him unstoppable. He controlled markets, headlines, politicians, journalists, analysts, everyone. But now, the narrative was slipping, and the slip began with one man he had dismissed as nothing. It was 6:42 a.m. when Ryan walked into his penthouse conference room, shirt half buttoned, jaw tight, hair uncombed. He hadn't slept. He couldn't. The entire night, he kept replaying the same thing in his head. That janitor, that moment, those four words: "I know your secret." Ryan wasn't scared of people knowing things. He had lawyers for that, money for that, silence for that. But the janitor, Michael, did not speak like a blackmailer. He didn't tremble. He didn't hesitate. He didn't even look impressed that he was standing in the same hallway as the Ryan Hale. He spoke like a man who had nothing to lose. And those are the only people Ryan feared. Now Ryan stood in front of a wall-sized digital screen. His four executives were already seated, pretending not to notice their boss's shaken posture. "Let's begin," Ryan said. "Charlotte." His CFO clicked a remote. The screen flickered to a report labeled "Unexplained Asset Irregularities, Fourth Quarter." "We were preparing the annual audit when we found it," Charlotte said carefully. "There are discrepancies." Ryan folded his arms. "How much?" She hesitated. That alone made him feel sick. "Not how much, Ryan. How deep?" He stepped closer. "Explain." Charlotte's voice lowered. "There are 19 off-ledger transactions routed through shell entities we never approved. They're all tied to Hale Global, but nobody on our team registered these companies." Ryan blinked once, then again. There was no shock in his face, only fury, because he immediately understood one thing. Someone inside his empire had built a second empire behind his back. "And there's more," Charlotte added. The room went silent. "We traced the digital signatures. Whoever did this used one of your private access keys." Ryan felt something he hadn't felt since his early 20s, an emotion he had buried: fear. Ryan dismissed the meeting early. Once alone, he opened his private drive, a system encrypted beyond federal standards, a place only two people had access to: himself and someone he thought he could trust. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. He typed /blackline. The directory opened. Hundreds of documents, hundreds of confidential files, blueprints of acquisitions, illicit partnerships, shadow investors. Every move he made to build his empire, legal and illegal, lived in this folder. But today something new appeared, a file that did not exist yesterday, a file he did not create. It was titled, "You Don't Know Me." Ryan's heart slammed against his ribs. He clicked. The file contained a single image, a grainy CCTV still, from the underground parking lot, from the night before. The janitor, Michael, looking directly at the camera. But that wasn't the part that froze Ryan's blood. Under the image was a line written in plain text: "I was always here." Meanwhile, across town, Michael stepped out of a small coffee shop wearing the same faded uniform he'd worn for 5 years. Except today, he didn't look like a janitor. Today, there was a focus in his walk, purpose in his eyes, a tension in his jaw that suggested he was preparing for something inevitable. He held a simple phone in his hand, the old kind: no apps, no fingerprint scanners, no tracking. A burner. He called a number. A woman answered. "You're late." Michael didn't respond to her tone. "It began," he said. "Does he know who you are?" "No," Michael replied, "but he will soon." No, you have one chance, she said. If you fail, Michael cut her off. I'm not going to fail. I've waited 11 years. The woman sighed. Then go finish it. The call ended. Michael leaned against the wall. For a moment, his hands shook, not from fear, but from the weight of everything he was about to do. He whispered to himself, time to end this. Ryan's security team tried to stop the man at the lobby. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He didn't push anyone. He simply said, I need to see Ryan Hale. He's expecting me. And the guards, who had thrown people out for sneezing in the wrong direction, froze, as though something in his eyes told them, do not interfere. 2 minutes later, Ryan's private elevator opened and Michael stepped in. When the doors opened at the penthouse floor, Ryan was waiting. No assistants, no guards, no liars, just him. Who are you? Ryan asked. Michael smiled lightly. Someone you should have noticed a long time ago. They sat across from each other in Ryan's living room, glass walls behind them revealing the entire city. Michael spoke first. Do you know how many people clean your buildings? He asked. 50? 100? Ryan didn't respond. You walk past us every day, Michael continued. We see your meetings, hear your calls, watch your analysts panic, watch your partners laugh behind your back, watch your board double cross you while smiling at your face. Ryan leaned forward. Get to the point. Michael did. You built your empire on fraud, Ryan. Shadow accounts, offshore laundering, market manipulation. You think the world doesn't know? It does. It has for years. Ryan's jaw tightened. If you think you can extort me, Michael raised a hand to stop him. No, I'm not extorting you. He pulled out a flash drive and placed it on the table. I am exposing you. Ryan felt the room tilt. Why? He whispered. Michael exhaled slowly. For the first time, there was emotion in his voice. Quiet, heavy, sharp. Because 11 years ago, your company destroyed my brother. Ryan blinked. I don't know your brother. Yes, Michael replied softly. That's the problem. Michael finally revealed it. 11 years ago, his older brother, Daniel Calder, was a forensic analyst at Hale Global. Young, honest, brilliant. He discovered the earliest traces of Ryan's secret financial network, the same network that now threatened to collapse Ryan's empire. Daniel confronted his superior. Then he tried to contact Ryan directly, but he never made it. 2 days after filing an internal whistleblower report, Daniel was found dead. Official ruling suicide. Real story silenced. Michael's voice cracked for the first time. He believed in the system. He believed truth mattered. He believed someone like you couldn't exist with this much darkness. Ryan swallowed. I didn't. Michael cut him sharply. You may not have ordered it, but your empire did. Your machine did. Your greed did. He leaned forward. You killed my brother just as surely as if you pulled the trigger yourself. Ryan finally spoke. What do you want? Money? Protection? A deal? Michael looked almost offended. I want justice. Ryan laughed bitterly. Justice? You can't bring down someone like me. Michael's smile returned, but this time it wasn't gentle. It was terrifying. Ryan, your empire is already falling. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to tell you. He tapped the flash drive. This has already been sent to 11 journalists, 4 regulators, 2 international crime units, and 1 person you should fear more than all of them. Ryan froze. Who? Michael whispered one name. Ryan's face drained of color instantly. You are working with her? Michael stood up. No, Ryan, she's working with me. Michael walked through the elevator. Ryan stood slowly, panic rising. Michael, wait, let's talk. We can fix this. I can help you. I can pay you. Name your price. Michael turned around. For the first time, his voice was cold. You can't buy back 11 years of silence. You can't buy back a man's life, and you can't buy your way out of this. He pressed the elevator button. 1 week from today, Michael said, the world will know who Ryan Hale truly is. The doors opened. Michael stepped inside. As for you, he added, enjoy your last quiet sunrise. The doors closed. Ryan stood frozen, shaking, realizing something he had never believed possible. The most powerful man in the city was no longer in control. Ryan Hale had always believed that control was absolute. Every building, every account, every whisper of his name he could manipulate. But 1 week after Michael's warning, Ryan discovered something terrifying. The illusion of control was gone. It started small: an email to his assistant, unread for hours, a client call, unanswered, a regulator leaving a message marked urgent on his private line, a minor employee breaking protocol but not reporting it. By mid morning, Ryan felt a creeping sensation in his chest: unease. The office was quiet, too quiet. The hum of servers in AC felt like a countdown timer. The city outside his penthouse windows glimmered with morning sun, but he couldn't see it. He couldn't breathe. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. A woman's voice, calm, controlled. Good morning, Mr. Hale. You don't know me yet, but I know everything about you. Ryan's blood ran cold. You don't scare me, he said, forcing a smile. I'm not trying to, she replied. I'm trying to stop you. By noon, Ryan began noticing social media mentions of his name, but not in the usual business news. They were personal, scandalous, damning. A former employee had posted a thread warning Ryan Hale's investments are fraudulent, evidence inside. Screenshots of internal communications, financial transfers, and confidential documents, all public. The post went viral, millions of impressions in hours. News outlets picked it up, national and international. Ryan tried to call Michael. No answer. All communication lines were blocked. He realized someone was orchestrating a perfect storm, and he was powerless to stop it. Ryan retreated to his office. Four massive monitors displayed real time analytics, stock prices, client accounts, investor withdrawals, social media trends. Everything was crashing. Every market he controlled fluctuated violently. Every investor panicked. Every employee quietly left the company chat. He called his top executives. Find Michael. Now, whoever he is, find him. No one moved. Some hesitated. One said quietly, Sir, I think he's not just targeting you, he's dismantling the entire operation. Ryan leaned back. Sweat dripped down his temple. This was unprecedented, and for the first time, he felt fear. By the third day, global regulators were involved. Interpol flagged multiple financial accounts. Banks froze transactions. Authorities demanded explanations Ryan didn't have. Michael had been meticulous. Every move he exposed left no gaps. Every secret Ryan thought was buried had been documented. Every shell company, every offshore account, every hidden transfer, public. Ryan attempted damage control, press releases, apologies, denials. The media laughed at him. Social feeds exploded with hashtags Ryan Hale exposed, Fraud King, and Michael wins. Michael's strategy wasn't just exposure, it was humiliation in real time, and Ryan couldn't stop it. The mysterious woman Michael mentioned finally appeared. Her name was Clara Voss, an investigative journalist renowned for uncovering corporate corruption. Feared by the elite, she had access to the deepest networks, shadow servers, whistleblowers across continents. Michael had provided her with the evidence. She amplified it. Each article was surgical, revealing one layer of Ryan's empire at a time. Ryan watched in disbelief as his assets, once untouchable, were frozen. Investors sued for fraud. Employees testified in court. The international network of scams he built meticulously collapsed like a sandcastle in a storm. By day 5, Ryan received a physical envelope, no return address. Inside, a thick folder. Each page contained personal stories from investors he had defrauded. One page described a family who had invested everything to pay for a child's surgery. Another detailed a retiree losing her savings. Each story ended the same, their hope destroyed by Ryan's greed. Ryan's stomach turned. For once, no loopholes, no signature forgery would save him. The real people, real victims, real stories, beyond spreadsheets, beyond audits, confronted him. The irony wasn't lost. He who once stole effortlessly now faced the raw consequences of his actions. Employees began leaving in mass. Accounts closed. Lawyers advised him to liquidate. Board members resigned publicly. Ryan realized something terrifying. Loyalty in his empire had always been conditional. Without money, influence, or fear, there was no loyalty left. By the seventh day, his penthouse felt empty. Security guards stared silently at him. Assistants whispered. The city that once bowed now ignored him completely. Ryan paced. He screamed into the walls. He called for Michael. No answer. He had underestimated the janitor. He had underestimated the human element. Then came the final blow. Clara Voss released a live streamed press conference. Michael's evidence laid bare, all documents verified, accounts frozen, shell companies exposed, international courts notified. Ryan had no defense. Every lie, every fake account, every fraudulent contract, all public. Viewers online numbered in the millions. Comments flooded. Finally, justice. Fraud exposed. Even billionaires are not untouchable. Ryan sat in his empty office, mute. The screens reflected his own shattered face. Every empire he built, every alliance he made, every risk he calculated, it all evaporated in hours. The city skyline mocked him. The sunset. He had nowhere to hide. As the last screen went dark, a notification paged on Ryan's personal phone. A message from an unknown number. 1 week, one empire, one reckoning. Done. M. Ryan stared at the screen. A cold sweat drenched him. He realized the final truth. Michael didn't just destroy his company, he dismantled his identity, his control, and his fear based power. Ryan wasn't just bankrupt financially, he was bankrupt emotionally, morally, completely. For the first time in his life, Ryan Hale understood the meaning of absolute vulnerability. By day 10, banks refused him service, law firms refused him representation, media outlets published exposes without fear of retribution. Ryan walked the streets anonymously. No luxury cars, no private jet, no guards. Just him, a man stripped bare of influence. He visited old investors. Some laughed, some cried, some spat in his face. Every interaction drilled one point into him. You cannot steal life without consequences. And above all, Michael's shadow loomed. Every thought he had, every plan he considered, Michael had already calculated. Ryan was no longer the puppet master. He was a puppet, dancing to someone else's strings. Ryan returned to his empty penthouse. He found a single envelope on his desk. Inside, a photo of himself, Michael, and Daniel Collar taken years ago, hidden by Michael all this time. Attached, a note, handwritten. Every empire you destroy, someone watches. Every promise you break, someone remembers. Every life you ruin, someone acts. I am that someone. Ryan crumbled the note. He collapsed into a chair. He finally understood the cruelest truth of all. Fear is temporary, power is temporary, but consequences are permanent. The week ended with Ryan's empire in ruins. Michael, unseen, disappeared back into his ordinary world. Clara Voss continued publishing details globally. Regulators finalized lawsuits. Investors recovered partial losses. Ryan had nothing, no company, no money, no influence. And yet, for Michael and the world, justice had been served. The man who once wielded absolute power had been reduced to nothing, forced to confront the reality he never cared about. People matter more than money, actions matter more than ambition, and betrayal always comes back. The world had shifted. Ryan Hale's empire had fallen. a once unshakable giant reduced to ruins. But in the aftermath of destruction, a new story began, one of reckoning, truth, and the quiet triumph of those who had been overlooked. Ryan sat in his apartment, stripped of every luxury, surrounded by echoes of a life he once commanded. No assistants, no bodyguards, no staff, just the sound of the city, indifferent, humming below his window. He had expected anger, defiance, even denial. What he had not expected was emptiness. For the first time, Ryan Hale was truly alone. The empire he built on manipulation, fear, and stolen trust had crumbled under the weight of truth, and truth was merciless. He picked up the single note Michael had left weeks ago. Every empire you destroy, someone watches. Every promise you break, someone remembers. Every life you ruin, someone acts. I am that someone. Ryan reread it, feeling the full impact of its finality. No loopholes, no escape, no excuses. Meanwhile, Michael Calder observed the city from a small cafe, far from the penthouse, far from cameras, far from recognition. He watched the chaos ripple across Ryan's world with satisfaction, not vengeance, but justice. Every investor was informed, every regulatory body was briefed, every shell company he had used to manipulate markets was exposed. But Michael wasn't finished. He had left Ryan alive because that was part of the lesson. Destruction is meaningless without awareness. Ryan needed to feel the weight of his actions to confront the lives he had ruined. Michael's plan was meticulous. Every document, every leaked file, every conversation that could destroy Ryan's reputation had been strategically released. Every revelation calculated to dismantle not just the empire, but the ego that built it. And finally, he made the call to Clara Voss, the journalist who had amplified everything. Time to end it, Michael said. Clara nodded. She had witnessed thousands of exposes, but this one would make history. Ryan's first confrontation with reality came when former employees showed up at his doorstep. They didn't yell, they didn't demand money. They simply handed him, one by one, the faces of those he had betrayed stared back at him through the list. Families ruined financially, employees misled for years, small business owners whose savings he had siphoned. Ryan tried to justify it, to argue, to blame the system, but words failed him. He had spent a lifetime building a world where appearances mattered more than truth. Now, appearances offered him nothing. One former investor spoke quietly. You had every opportunity to do the right thing. Hale, you didn't. Now live with the consequences. Ryan didn't respond. He couldn't. He only felt a crushing weight, the reality of being powerless. The culmination of Michael's and Clara's efforts arrived with a live international press conference. Clara Voss stood before dozens of cameras, satellites, broadcasting to millions. Today we expose the full scope of Ryan Hale's actions: fraud, deception, market manipulation. The human cost is immense. Families, employees, investors, all victims of a man who believed power would shield him. Ryan was forced to sit in the back of the room, unable to speak. Every accusation was documented, verified, and undeniable. Every lie he had told unraveled in real time. The reporters pressed, cameras zoomed, world leaders and regulators monitored the broadcast. Ryan's only choice was silence. For the first time, the empire he built could not protect him. After the press conference, Michael finally approached Ryan in private. The room was quiet. A single lamp illuminated them. No witnesses, no cameras. You wanted control, Michael said. You wanted to manipulate everyone, but you couldn't manipulate the truth. Ryan tried to speak. I can fix this. Give me a chance. Money can. Michael cut him off. No, this isn't about money. You can't buy forgiveness. You can't undo lives. You can't take back what you've done. Ryan's face twisted in frustration, disbelief, and panic. He had never been powerless in his life. Now he realized power meant nothing without integrity. Michael leaned in closer. This is the last time you will see me, Ryan. Remember every face, remember every lie, and remember you were warned. With that, Michael left. For Ryan, that door closing marked the end of an era, not just the collapse of his empire, but the final confrontation with his own conscience. Weeks passed. Ryan tried to regain any semblance of life, but nothing worked. His homes were sold, accounts frozen. The law pursued him. Meanwhile, Michael returned to his ordinary world. He went back to the life he had before, unnoticed and uncelebrated, because he had already achieved what mattered most: justice. The investors began rebuilding. Clara's articles helped restore confidence in the markets. Employees returned to new ventures, carrying lessons learned. Lives damaged by Ryan's greed slowly healed, and Michael, for the first time in 11 years, allowed himself to breathe. Justice has been served, not through violence, not through revenge, but through careful, calculated exposure of truth. Ryan isolated, reflected on everything he had lost: money gone, empire gone, reputation gone. What remained was a stark, painful truth. He could have had everything without taking everything from others. The lives he ruined were reminders. The families he harmed, the employees he misled, the investors he betrayed, they were now witnesses to his downfall. Power and ambition without ethics, he realized, were meaningless. He had been forced to confront the consequences of every choice, and the man who once believed himself untouchable had been humbled, shattered, and forced into accountability. Michael visited Daniel Calder's grave in a small cemetery. The wind rustled dry leaves. The headstone was weathered, simple. He knelt. "Justice is done," he whispered. He knelt. "Justice is done," he whispered. "You were never forgotten, and I made sure the world remembers what he did." He stayed for a long time, letting the weight of the past settle. Then he walked away, quiet, invisible, victorious. For Michael, the world didn't need recognition, it only needed balance. Months later, Ryan Hale was a shadow of himself. He lived in a small apartment, no bodyguards, no assistants, no media. Every day he saw news of regulatory changes, investor recoveries, and employee successes, all caused by the system Michael had triggered. He tried to rebuild his life, but trust had been shattered. Power had no meaning without it. Michael, on the other hand, continued his life quietly: ordinary job, ordinary routines, but extraordinary moral victory. The city moved on, the world moved on, but the lesson remained. Betrayal has consequences, power is temporary, justice is inevitable. The story closes on two contrasting images: Ryan Hale, alone on his empty apartment, haunted by his own choices, the weight of guilt heavy in his chest. Michael Calder, walking past a bustling cafe, unnoticed, free, the world continuing unaware of the quiet hand that restored balance. One had lost everything, the other had restored everything that mattered. The empire was gone, but the truth endured.